Alright, welcome back everybody for episode 102. This will be my second episode for the Microsoft beginner tutorial. The last one I did was just basic traffic patterns and I was in a 172. Today we'll be in the Diamond DA62 and we're starting off at Space Coast Regional again, but today's biggest topic is going to be with the VFR charts. So there's a couple ways to get VFR charts, and you can either use Little Nav Map, but it does take a extra download to get them installed into Little Nav Map. I have not done that in a couple years. I now use what's called FS widgets. And it's a little pricey, but it's really good, and we are going to get this plane started up and we're going to dive right into chart rating. I am not an expert at reading charts, as there is a few things I might not know and little tricks about them that I might not know, but for the most part I can get you a pretty good idea about how they should be used. Also, another reason for this stream is I am on my new computer. I was on a i7-9700F and with a 1660 Ti GPU. Now I'm on a Intel i7 13700 or 13700K, I believe, and a 3060 Ti. I have gotten a chance to do a couple flights before this just to fill it out, and it's been an amazing upgrade. So right now we're just waiting for the wings to align, or the alignment. So I got to keep the wings aligned, and there we go. I've already switched to the GPS here by using the CDI button, just in case I get into any autopilot. It'll already be ready. If you do not switch it to that, it will behave incorrectly, and it'll basically have a mind of its own. So, like I said, we're sitting here at Space Coast Regional in Florida. So this is what a VFR chart looks like. Again, this is on FS widgets, Gmaps HD. I think it's like 40, 50, 60 bucks. I can't remember, but it is a really good app to have. It can do all kinds of great things, but I like it mostly for the VFR. So when you first look at VFR, it looks like a bunch of numbers, lines, and it looks just flat out very confusing. So the first thing I'm going to point out, since we're sitting still, is if you look here where my little plane is, the blue circle behind it is a airport marker, and the little star above it means it does have a control tower, but it may not be on at all times, so you have got to go to the information for that airport. I usually use AirMate, and you can see what time the control towers are actually in operation and when they're not. If they're not in operation, you use just a standard 118.9 for communications with the other pilots. Alright, so we can see here I am at this airport. You will see these little diamond figures right here. Those are for obstacles, and most of the time they're radio towers. And then right here you see the 250. That is for how high it is, which means it's 250 foot tall. And you can see this one to the left is 327. The number below it, 314, is not counting in sea level. So it's evidently like 13 foot sea level right there, so that's why it's 327. The parachute emblem up here, you'll see some of them where it's about in the center of the screen. That means there's parachuters possible in that area. If you live in this area, you know Titusville has a lot of skydiving stuff going on. They have that airport there, which is where they fly out of. Another thing right here is you can see Space Coast Regional, the TIX at the end. That is its ICO code. Usually there's a K in front. That's up for all of America, or United States, that is K. Other different countries have different letters that start before them, so you have to look it up to see what it is. So these dotted lines, the blue ones, sometimes you'll see magenta ones as well, which is the pink. And these big thick blue lines, these faded ones, they're like a circle, look all kinds of weird shape. Those are all your different airspaces. And they go from A to G, I think it is. I think G is the bottom one. I'm not really good at the E's and F's. Maybe it just gives the S. But A, B, and C, and D are all pretty common. A is anything above 18,000 feet, and you don't do that in VFR. You have to be an IFR to go above 18,000 feet. And IFR just means you're using a flight plan and you're talking to air traffic controller the whole time. But what we're going to pay attention to here is this big line is what I'm going to focus on first, this big thick one here. So this is Orlando down here, and you have multiple lines going all whichever different types of way. So if you actually look at this in a 3D view, it kind of looks like an upside down wedding cake per se. And what you will want to do is this number right here, the 100 over 60. Looks like a math problem, but it's not. What that means is if you're between 600 foot and 10,000 feet, you are technically in that airspace, which is going to be bordered with the other ones. So anything in here is all going to be between 600 and 10,000 feet. If you notice, after you cross this blue line over here, it goes to 100 over 30. Let me get rid of this compass so we can see a little better. So that's 3,000 feet to 10,000 feet. And as you see, you get closer to Orlando Airport, that bottom number gets lower and lower. And that's because you are getting closer to the airport, therefore planes are going to be lower that are coming into land. So it needs to be more controlled airspace as you get closer. So even if you're within any of these circles, you can take off from airports that are within them, as long as you do not go above that flight level. Alright, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get our taxi going. We're going to take off. I do believe this would normally be a controlled airport at this time, but I do not have air traffic control on Microsoft Flight Simulator. I did a little bit on how to talk to air traffic control and VFR radio traffic phrases and stuff like that on the previous video, so I'm not really going to cover that right now, but we're going to get moving, get the taxi light on. Here to say I feel kind of weird here. I don't have one engine running. Must have shut off on me. Now we're good. Oh yeah, it's much better. I do have it set to clear skies right now, just for the purposes of this video. It is kind of windy down there right now today. Now let's see what it is. Actually, it's not too bad. It's only 5 knots at Space Coast right now, coming from the 120 direction. So technically, I'm taking off the wrong way. If I had real traffic or real weather on, I'd be taking off to the south. So we already know we're not taking off in any of Orlando's airspace, but we would be if we was at Space Coast Regional in real life. We would be talking to them, like I was saying. After we take off, we're going to go to the south, head towards Melbourne. We might land at Melbourne, we might keep going. It'll just depend. I'm going to stop here of the hold short line. Put brakes on, turn over the landing lights, make sure no other players are coming in. Actually, I think I turned off the tags. Oh yeah, there we go. Looks pretty good. Do our run up here, make sure everything looks good. Yep. And as I was saying on the previous episode I did, I am not a real pilot whatsoever. I have just studied the FAA books that I've bought pretty heavily over the last few years. One day I will go for my actual license. I've got about 3,000 or 4,000 hours of sim on my hand right now. I've got about 1,300 flight hours on Microsoft Flight alone. Alright, looking good. Slip indicator's working. Airspeed is going up. Pull back a little bit and we should be there. We go. Alright, trying to get a good positive rate of climb first. Yeah, there we go. Alright, gears up and flaps retracted. And let me get my nav back over here. Try to make it a little smaller here. And it's as small as it's going to let me. So we'll just place it like this for, well, that wasn't supposed to work. Real quick, let's see, keep map, yep, there we go. Perfect, there we go. The yellow you see on the map down here, that means that's pretty populated area, and I'm pretty sure the rule is you're supposed to stay about 1,000 feet above it or beside it, I do believe, unless you're taking off, of course, or landing. Another thing with VFR flying is you've got to be separated from the cloud coverage. It's 500 foot below, 1,000 foot above, and 2,000 foot on the horizon, or the horizontal direction of the clouds. Pretty sure that's correct. I tend to get my above and belows mixed up, but I'm pretty sure it's 500 below, 1,000 above. Alright, we can see us making our turn here. And by the way, that big thick blue line, that means that is a Class Bravo airspace. Now, flying VFR, you can enter them, but before you would want to enter that airspace, you would want to talk to the air traffic controller for that area, which is usually approach. You can always talk to the area air traffic controller and get what's called flight following, which is basically where you will get your squawk code set to whatever they give you, so they can see you on the map, and they will make sure you stay clear of any other airplanes in the airspace. That will allow you to enter that airspace. Alright, so we can see what we're flying. Don't want to move it over here. Kind of takes away some of the view a little bit, but it's alright. Another thing you can kind of notice with these airport markers, like the blue one and the magenta one, it actually kind of does give you an idea of which way the runways are facing. It's not going to be perfect, but it does give you a pretty good idea. Another thing you may notice is, if you know anything about this area, is I'm right here at Cape Canaveral, and back that way is, zoomed in on that, is the landing strip for the space shuttle, and you can see it on the map here, but it does not actually show it as a marker. It just shows it as a box, and that's because that is a government airfield. The only way one would land at that, as a normal pilot would be, is if they have some type of emergency. It's no guarantee an Air Force base, Marine Corps base, or anything like that, they will let you land, but most of the time they probably would. You can also see there's another airstrip over there. That is, I think that one's called the skid strip. It's a smaller runway, but it's also used with NASA and the government. Another thing is, when you're flying VFR, you want to make sure you do not fly at the inappropriate level. If you are flying from north from the 001 direction to actually I think it's 0 to 179, the east direction, you want to fly at an odd 500 foot, so like 3,500 foot, 5,500 foot, and so on. If you're flying to the east, which is the 180 to 359, you will fly at an even. Alright, so now if you're under 3,500 foot, you can actually fly whatever you want. And that's what we're going to do here. And we'll turn on autopilot. And we'll turn on vertical speed here. Got it at 1,000 feet per minute. Let's drop that down to 800. Let's also get our heading set correctly here. Alright, flying to the south. So, as you can see here on the map, another one of those obstacles I was talking about, and it's 461 foot tall. I'm going to go to exterior view here real quick, and you can see that tower right over there, that radio tower I was talking about. So to get them in the sim, it's actually a mod. I think the name of the people that make it is We Love VFR, I believe, and it is Region 2 is for North and South America. Region 1 and 3 are for other parts of the world. And that will add in pretty much all of your towers, radio towers, cell towers. Even adds in smokestacks, cranes even, where construction is being done. It's a pretty cool mod. I definitely advise to get it. I never noticed any type of frame rate hit when I did get it and install it. Alright, so we can see here we're flying up to this other small magenta colored airport, and you can follow the dots, and that tells you what it is. And that PVT there is, you might can guess it, means private. So that's a privately owned airstrip. And you can see Merritt Island, which is COI is its code. And it gives you some of the radio frequencies. That AWOS there, that stands for, I'm pretty sure it's called Area or Advanced Weather Observation Service, something like that. It's for weather though. You would tune to that frequency and it would give you the weather for that airport. And if you notice, it does not have a star above it, so that means it is an uncontrolled airport, so it is considered pilot control. So you'd have to be making sure you do your correct entries and your correct flight patterns and all that stuff for landing there. Zoom out there a little bit. The big bold blue numbers there, that 1 and the 2, that is your terrain elevation, so it's about 120 foot there. 200 or 210 there is what you can see. You can see in this dotted one, see that 25 in the box. That means 2,500 foot and down is controlled airspace there. And you can see I'm coming up on Melbourne's. And they are a class Bravo. Or, correct, no, sorry, not Bravo. That's Orlando. They are Charlie. No, they're Delta. Charlie is like Charlotte. I think Raleigh is. Airports to that extent are like that. Let's see what else I can point out. These light blue lines, I'm 99% sure are for your IFR airways. That's where you'd see the jets flying at and stuff like that are flying IFR. And at this point in time, I would want to be talking to Melbourne Air Traffic Control. Like I said earlier, though, I do have it turned off. So I would want to be in contact with them at this point in time. And they would probably very well could give me a squawk code or just guide me to what I need to do. So these dotted bars and these bars and the dots, and it says satellite, so that's a VFR station, which is right there, and the bars and the dots are actually Morse code. So if you tune to that Morse station, you can turn up the volume and you'll hear Morse code, and you will double check that Morse code you are hearing with what you see, and as long as it matches up, then that means you are tuned to the correct Morse station, which is how some VFR pilots navigate, and even IFR can do that as well. And it's just how you would navigate. Make sure you're heading the right direction with your autopilot. Or even if you're manually flying, you can still make sure your flight director is correct with what you have tuned to the direction you're flying, which mine is not set up because I do not have anything selected at all. Nothing programmed in. I'm literally just free flying right now. And let's see, I haven't done this in forever, but let's do it. Let's see, let's go to direct to. Okay. Let's see, we're not gonna go to Melbourne. Let's go to Palm Beach. Okay, so let's see, we're gonna scroll. I think Palm Beach is PBI, I believe. Go past it, there it is. No, that's not it. Palm Beach, yeah, there we go. I just done direct to. You can see what bearing it's saying here, the course heading, and how far away I am. So I'm going to keep that, and I am going to go ahead and activate it. And then you can see my flight director as the bar there. So I would want to make sure all of them stay lined up. As you can see, it's slowly starting to move to the left a little there, and that means I'm heading the wrong way. So we're gonna set my bearing to 167. While we're flying there, let me see if I can make this stop following me. I hadn't used this in forever. It's the first time I've used it in quite a while. I know there's got to be a way to make it stop following. I was going to show some other types of areas. You see that big blue area there? That's because of the NASA launch pads with rockets launching, like SpaceX, ULA, all of them. Those are restricted areas. You can fly in them if you have approval. If you go to, I use My Weather as an actual app. You can see what's called TFRs on there, which are big red areas. TFR stands for temporary flight restriction, which means you really shouldn't enter that area. If you do, prepare to see some jets on your tail pretty quick. And when I mean jets, I'm talking F-22s or F-18s, whatever. So if you want your own personal air show high in the sky while you're flying your airplane, fly in a TFR. I trust you. You'll get a real good air show. Interesting fact about Florida is Disney. So Disney actually has a permanent temporary flight restriction. If you go look them up, even though it says temporary, it's actually permanent. It has been there for many years and will be for many more years, I imagine. You can see the faded magenta lines here, they're a little different than your other types of airspaces. So these are custom shaped to the area. So you can see this box kind of comes out here, kind of sticks way out from the circles. That's because this Vero Beach has a runway that goes from the northwest to the southeast. I can't remember what actual heading that runway is, but that's because they might come in to land this way and they want you to be in a controlled area sooner than later. So that's why it's extended out. And we can see here again, there's another parachute. That means there's parachuters down this area. You can see these anchors. That's for water runways, for water runway planes or amphibious planes. If you look here on the Vero Beach, you can see it has a ATIS or ATIS. You will see that on some airports. That's for also weather. I cannot remember what it stands for right offhand, but you will tune to that before contacting that area traffic controller for that airport. And because at the end it will give you a phonetic alphabet letter, like A is an alpha, B is in Bravo. Anyway, they reset every hour and it'll update. So at the end it'll say, advise on contact with air traffic controller, you received information Charlie or whatever. And so after you contact air traffic control, you will say you are coming in with information, whatever. That way they know you got the weather, and it'll also tell you what runways are active or if a runway is closed as well on there. That's why it's important to make sure you do tune to them in real life. So I would be getting ready to need to be talking to them at this point. Something interesting. So say you're at an airport that is in controlled airspace of a larger airport. So say you're at one of these smaller airports and underneath a Bravo or a Charlie airspace, and it's an uncontrolled airport that you're at. So technically you would need to be in contact with air traffic control, but due to some aircrafts, the radio will not reach to those air traffic controllers due to the aircraft being on the ground. It just doesn't work very well. It's a VHF radio system, so it needs to be more direct, and it just can't really go through trees and mountains and whatnot. So after you take off, you will immediately contact that air traffic controller. Pick up speed a little bit more here. I got plenty more I can give. You can see down here at the bottom it says for see NOTAMs, or a directory for Class D and E airspace for effective hours. So that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. Some are actually uncontrolled at certain points, and sometimes during the day they are controlled. My local airport is from 7 to 6:30, something like that. It is controlled, and after that it is uncontrolled. And the notice means notice to airmen. You would get them on FAA website, and probably get them on AirMate as well, I'm sure. So we'll hop out to exterior view. Like I said in the title, I did get a new computer, so it is amazing to see how much further the draw distance is now and how much crisper everything is. Something else to point out here is you see this Marion MOA with these weird looking lines, and that is another type of airspace, but that is for military operation areas. I think that's what it stands for, but it's military training area, so you will need to get in contact with traffic controller if you're entering that area too, because there's going to be jets, helicopters, and all that kind of stuff that could be in the area training. And of course, if you've played Microsoft Flight enough, you know that you can be in a plane like AIM, and all of a sudden you got this guy in F-16 or F-35 or whatever flying past you at like Mach 1, which is a big no-no in real life, obviously, but they can, you know, fighter jets change altitude very, very quickly, and you could easily get hit by one if you're not known to be there. So you've definitely got to talk to air traffic control if you're in those areas. Most of the time, I don't even think they'll let you enter them. I could be wrong though. Definitely if they're doing something, I highly doubt they would. See my flight director here, it's a little off. My bar's to the right, so that means I'm going to change my heading just a little bit to the right. I want to make sure them bars are actually lined up together. Again, that just means I know I'm flying in the right direction and staying on the correct course. And it's slowly going to center. You don't want to turn too much if you're only this little off. Turn too much, and before you know it, you'll be too far to the right of it. You'll overshoot it. Something else I'll point out while we're flying here is these circles, magenta circles with the R. So that means it's restricted airport. So therefore it's another type of private airport that you may see when you're flying with these VFR charts. It also means the runways are less than 1,500 foot long. And they can be grass or hard surface. Turn my heading back a little bit. I'm pretty much heading the right way. Did overshoot a little bit. And for the time being, I'm going to kind of close this down here for a moment. You can see our map here. It does show a lot of similar information to a point. It doesn't tell you if there's a restricted airport or not, but it will show you airports, and it will show you as well some of the airspaces on there as well. Not all of these glass cockpits will do that, but most of them do. Let's see, because it should show Orlando. Yeah, you can see the military ones I was talking about, and there you can see the airspace for Orlando. It does not show you, however, the altitudes that they're at. That's why you would need a VFR chart. So hopefully this is streaming pretty well. I'm hoping it's pretty smooth. I haven't got to see what it looks like on the viewer's end yet with this new PC setup, because I am running almost max everything to a point. I am running in almost 4K with all the detail sliders maxed out and about half of everything on ultra and everything else is on high. I did turn off like the lens flare and bloom and that, and the cockpit refresh rate is on low. The refresh rate for the cockpit screens is a big FPS heater. Everything's looking good on the plane itself. Oil temp pressure is good. I did use another mod that can be found on FlightSim.2 called Random Failures. It's pretty cool. It will do random failures. You can set it to do just about anything. It's very customizable. You could have an electronics failure or an engine failure, and you can set when it can happen or make it at a surprise time. For instance, say my engine could fail, but if it's going to fail, I want it in between like 30 seconds or 6,000 seconds. So it could happen at the end of the flight, could happen in the very beginning. If you ever download it and get into it, you'll see what I'm talking about. But it's pretty cool app. I do enjoy using it because it does make you keep you on your toes. Maybe I'll do a stream on that with handling emergency situations. And you can see technically I'm literally sitting right at the top of this airspace right now. I'm at 25,000 or 2,500 foot, and this is at 2,500 foot airspace. So I wouldn't need to be talking to him right now since I am literally right on the line of it. I could go to 3,000 feet and just not have to worry about it at all, but I just stayed at 2,500 for now. YouTube is an excellent place for learning VFR charts, more in-depth tutorials from actual real pilots. That's where I learned a lot of my stuff from over the many years. It can be hard to remember it all. Let's see where we're at now. Getting ready to leave that airspace. Got several antennas and whatnot, cell towers around us, but we are definitely clear of all them. Another thing on VFR charts, I don't see any at the moment. Yes, actually I do. I do see one now. Is they can give you little identifiers too. So if you also notice, there's these lines here, the gray ones with the 95, and you can guess that is a highway. And you can see I'm right beside it. And the reason for that is if I'm having some kind of engine failure or whatever, I can always use them highways if needed. So they're there so you can find a landing place quicker rather than waiting too long and having to just put it down in swamp or something. Another thing you'll see down here is you'll see this black square and it says golf course. I'm gonna give you a second to figure this out. Yes, it means it's a golf course. And that's just a identifier, so if you're talking to air traffic control, they may see you have the golf course in sight, and you can say, oh yeah, let me see where it's at, and you can see it, and then, oh yeah, I see it in real life, I see it down there. When we get up to it, I'll try to find it and show it, and it'll be there. It's also another way that some pilots fly VFRs. You can use that to identify to make sure you can keep up with where you are on the VFR chart. Although nowadays, a lot of pilots will use like tablets, iPads, Samsung tablets, you name it or whatever, and can do pretty much exactly what I'm doing here. You can see it in real time. But you never know when you might need the skills to be able to do it with an actual paper chart. You never know what could happen while you're flying. I could honestly see that being the biggest issue with newer pilots right now. All our high school kids around this age and that starting to drive now, they are so used to using GPS on their cell phones and whatnot to get places, they don't remember how to drive to certain places on memory and don't learn the cities very well and whatnot. So I could see that becoming an issue, just like in flying airplanes. You just rely on their technology too much, and if something happens, you'll just be literally flying in the blind. And adjust my head just a little bit. You can see here at the top on my airplane, you can see distance 39.3. And you can see that's where we're going, so everything looks good. Okay, so we're getting kind of close to this golf course, so... yep, right there it is. You can already see it. Right here. Stretches out pretty good ways. They'll put coliseums and just all kinds of stuff. Like right up here it says a plant, so I'm guessing that's something like a power plant. Or something to that effect. So you can see down here this super big upside down triangle, whatever you want to call it, little lightning bolts, and it obviously is an antenna because it magically says it right there. So the reason that's so big is because these are super big antennas, super tall. You can see they are tall. They're 1,500 foot tall. We might see them from here. Oh yeah, you can see them. They're right there. Kind of hard to see. Let's see if I can zoom in. Yep, there you go. Mike can see it now. Yep, two of them. Again, that's with the mod. We Love VFR Region 2 is how they're in there. That's an interesting name for an airport. Never seen that one. So you see this magenta flag down here in the bottom. I've read about these a long time ago. I'm pretty sure that is used for what's called dead reckoning flying, which is kind of like flying by landmarks and time frames. So once you are passing blah 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 whatever landmark, you will fly at a heading of whatever at whatever speed for 8 minutes, and you should reach the golf course or whatever, and you're flying by landmarks, and that's called dead reckoning. I also believe it can be used with air traffic control when you're coming in on approach. That is a marker that you can expect them to give you as well. They may ask you if you have whatever this is in sight, and they'll use that to help navigate you in to wherever you're going. I believe that's the more common use for it. And it said Jupiter Inlet, so I guess that's just literally a water inlet to that area named Jupiter. So you can see now we're coming up on Palm Beach finally. Here in the bottom it has that thick magenta circle. That is class Delta airspace. And we will be able to see what the flight restrictions are for that. It should be pretty soon. They'll be showing up on the chart. Once they come into view, I will explain it. Here's another marker. You can see it has a little glider airplane with a G, and that's kind of obvious what that means. It means there's gliders in the area, possibly. Okay, we're starting to see it now. Looks like a 40. That means 4,000 feet. And let's see what the bottom of it is. Getting ready to come into view here in a moment. Looks like it's going to be 10,000 or 1,000 feet. Nope, 1,200 foot it looks like. Yep, it's going to be a 2. So if you're flying anywhere from 1,200 feet to 4,000 feet, you will be in that air zone, or airspace, and you will need to be talking air traffic control. And just like I was stating earlier with Orlando, the further out you are, the higher the bottom of the shelf is. So as you move in closer, it will be a larger airspace. The bottom of it will be much lower, and the top number will usually always stay the same. And we're getting ready to see what the inner circle is, and like I was saying, it's going to stay the same for the top. So the top shelf is still 4,000, and I'm going to guess it's probably going to be like 800 foot for the bottom, maybe 600, who knows, we'll find out here in about 10 seconds. It's going to be 3, oh, surface, that's CFC, or SFC, so that means to surface, so from the bottom to 4,000 is all controlled airspace there for Palm Beach. Sure I'm still looking good on fuel. Oh yeah, I am. Let's see if I can actually find one of them. Here we go, okay. 115.7, that's with the Morse code stuff I was talking about. Alright, let's see. Let's see if I can get that in here. I hadn't done this in forever. Yeah, it's not there, it's gonna be over here. Duh. Go to 15, there we go. And 15.7, let's go down. Let's swap it out. Turn up the volume. I don't hear anything, but I could be doing. Oh, I gotta select it over here. Like I said, I had not done this in forever. Nav 1. Could be Nav 2. Yeah, it's Nav 2, and oh, it got moved. Oh, I moved it. That's why it got moved. I don't hear it. Speaker? I don't know. I actually had never done that. I just read that's how you do it. It may not work in Microsoft Flight. I don't know. And I could just be doing something completely wrong. But you would normally hear the Morse code in your ear, and you just want to make sure that is what you hear. It matches up to that. I've done an X-plane 11 a long time ago. And for the sake of the video, since I don't use air traffic control right now until they get a really good one out, I do use Pilot ATC some, but I've got to reinstall that since I got a new computer, so I don't have it installed right now. But since I don't have any of that, I would do a entry for traffic pattern as if this was an uncontrolled airport, just to demonstrate that again like I did on the last video. So that airport is at, let's see, what is it at? Whoa. Palm Beach. Okay, let's see. There's, I'm trying to remember. 22 feet. Is that? Oh, that's a different airport. My bad. Palm Beach. Trying to see what the elevation of the airport is. It's going to be under 100 foot, I can guarantee that. I do know that much. So, traffic entry altitude is 1,500 foot above surface level. And that is always going to be rounded up. So, say Palm Beach is at 20 foot. And I will round it up to the next 100. And that'll be, obviously, 100. And then you add 1,500. And that gives you, magically, 1,600. So that's the altitude you would go to. Let's go ahead and get that set up in here. I am using my keyboard to do most of this right now. We're getting kind of close, so I'm going to go ahead and activate vertical speed. We'll go ahead and go down at 600 feet a minute. Pull back on the throttle because we were actually probably going too fast for the maneuver. What is the maneuver speed for this? I can't remember. I'm sure it's lower than what I'm going. Is this it? Nope. Oh, there it is. Well, that's landing gear. I don't know. Anyway, so we're gonna enter this at the midfield. I'm gonna head to the right a little here, so I can enter at midfield. And it will be a left-hand traffic pattern for Palm Beach. Pretty sure it's left hand there. Pretty much all airports are unless otherwise stated on a chart. And if you are playing with live weather, like I do most of the time, not with videos though, you will want to make sure you keep your barometric pressure set and updated correctly, and you can get that from either air traffic control or from the ATIS or the AWAS, any of that stuff. You can look up the MTARs for that airport, and you can Actually, the MTARs I don't think tell you. They do not. But they might. I can't remember. I haven't looked at one in a while to see what barometric pressure is. I usually just cheat it and just press the button I have assigned to go ahead and set it to whatever it actually is. But since I'm flying on clear weather, it's always its standard temperature and everything, and it's 29.92. Alright, so I am at 1600 foot here, cruising towards the airport. And since I'm going to treat it with a left-handed traffic pattern, I will cross midfield, and I will continue across midfield for a ways, and then I will make a 180, or really technically more like a 720, turn to the right, and I will enter what's called downwind. This down for now since we do not need it. While we're doing this, I'm going to point this out. So we got this Palm Beach County Park Airport. So you can see all of this is normal for Palm Beach till you get down here. And the reason for that is this is at 1200 foot for the lowest. This is at 1600 foot, and that's because there is an airport right there. So they're going to be taking off and landing at or within that air zone, so they do that. That way you don't have to worry about hitting that 1200 foot one. As soon as you take off, gives you extra little playing room. Alright, so we are entering midfield at 1500 foot above surface level. Or 1600 foot rather. Traffic pattern altitude is 1,000 foot above the rounded up surface level number, so we'll be at 1,100 foot for the traffic pattern. I'll go ahead and slow up a little bit. I'm going to slow up to where it starts to show the white here, getting that, which is the maximum airspeed you can be at before you can do your flaps. So don't ever use flaps if you are above this white line. So there we go, we're below it. I'll go ahead and do my flaps by one click. Speed up a little bit here, or give it a little more throttle, counter the drag. And I'm going to move this down here now because we do not need it for the time being. And we're kind of a good ways from it, so we're going to do our right hand 720, or right turn 720 here. Usually the traffic patterns are about a mile off from the parallel of the runway you're landing on. Give it a little more throttle here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off autopilot, just fly by hand. And this part's a little easier to do in VR, trying to keep in line with your runway. A little easier in VR because you can do it much quicker and kind of keep it out of the corner of your eye a little easier than in just regular screen. I'm going to go ahead and slow up a little more. Go ahead and deploy my landing gear. I want to wait till the airport's pretty far back over my shoulder. I am descending down to 1,100 foot. Right, and there pretty much. I'm going to try to hold it at around 1,100. I'm going to adjust my trim to help me out here. I'm going to trim up. I'm a little low, which is why I'm doing that. The airport's still kind of to my side. I'll wait a few more moments before I make my, it's called the base leg. I'm in the downwind right now, which means the wind direction is coming from behind me. Back to 1,100. Alright, now we're looking pretty good to make our base leg turn here. After I enter the base leg, I'm going to go ahead and do my next flap setting. I've heard from a few different pilots from YouTube videos, they all said never do your flaps when you're making a turn. It could induce a low wing stall easier. I'm in the base leg. I'm going to go full flaps. Slow up a little more. A little windy there. And I'm going to make my turn. Again, I think this part's much easier in VR. As I'm coming into the land, I'm just going to go ahead and say thanks for watching this stream today. I will be getting off after this. May end up doing something again later. I'm out of school right now. College don't start back up for a couple of weeks. I am taking some summer classes to get done quicker. So at the time right now, I do not have a lot to do, so I will be doing some more streaming. So if anybody has a request or a wish of something to see, just enter in the comments or however you want to get my attention for it. I do own a lot of the aircrafts that are third party. So if anything is on your mind about what to do or how to do it, just throw it in there and I'll do it. Kind of flaring here a little long. Hopefully my new PC setup did good on the streaming aspect side. I will review this video after this and just make sure it streamed good quality, not much stuttering, frame rate stayed pretty good, and I will make changes to my graphics settings if need be to make sure it's a good, smooth experience on the viewer's end. Nothing aggravates me more than stutters, which is why I bought a new computer. And I'm going to stop here now that I'm clear of the runway, clean the plane up, which means basically flaps back up, all that good stuff. Turn off landing light, turn on taxi light. And we'll go over here, continue to taxi. I don't know this airport very well, so I'm just going to go over here and park. Looks good. I don't even know if this is a place you can park planes. Kind of looks like it. I don't know. If anything, we're going to make it one for today. Alright, this looks good enough for me. Alright, so there we go. Shut the plane down, and again, thanks for watching the stream. And I will see you next time, and hopefully we'll get some requests from viewers, and we'll tackle those challenges.